I got an indication.
All right. Hey guys, we are going live in 2 seconds here. We're just going to have a last minute technical check, but technically we are live on the air, YouTube broadcasting throughout the world from the Vinyl Rundown World Headquarters in Los Angeles, California. I'm just going to check with my assistant there to see if the YouTube signal is live. Does that finger mean wait or does that finger mean we're live? I'm pretty sure we're live. And we got 5 people watching already, so we're live. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us here. And today we're having a special guest on the air with us, Steve Stajich, coming to us from somewhere out in the desert. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm going to give a quick introduction to you for those few people who still haven't heard of Steve Stajich. If you watch my channel regularly, you may have seen the video I did about his music and his records about a year and a half ago. And Steve has 3 or 4 records out, including the LP behind me, which we may talk about later, from 1978, I believe. Steve is known as being a writer, a comedy writer, a musician, a playwright, a columnist. He, I think, has done every job in Hollywood except maybe the craft services table. Would you say, Steve? You've done it all. But today we really want to talk about music, and Steve has put out several CDs from his home studio, and I have these here that we can look at and talk about. But we'll get to those later. We'll get to them individually if we have time. Steve, welcome. We want to hear about your songwriting process, but how's everything going? Can you hear me okay?
It's actually going. Things are great out here. You know, we're out here. We have a place in Santa Monica, and we're out here because the COVID numbers are so bad back in Los Angeles right now, and so it's just probability-wise or whatever safer for us to be out here. Neither of us has gotten the vaccine yet, although I've been drinking a lot of Listerine. I don't know if that helps. And we came out for the holidays and we just saw what was going on back in Los Angeles as far as the numbers and everything. So we decided to stay out here.
So you're out kind of past Palm Springs, somewhere in the desert, somewhere in the.
We're at. Here's where we are. If you drive out to the desert, and you get off at 62, which is marked other desert cities. We are one of those other desert cities.
You're in beautiful,
and
an undisclosed location in other.
Yeah, the biggest town for us, which is down the road from us, is Yucca Valley. But the thing that people seem to have heard of more is Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
people just seem to
Joshua Tree.
They like know about it and so on and so forth. And of course, if you keep driving, you kind of end up where Coachella happens. And so because of Coachella, there are more people who are sort of familiar with the desert now and have come out here for that festival. And so they sort of know their way around out here now.
Nice. I haven't been that far out. I haven't been past Palm Springs. Someday I'll get out there. So, Steve, in addition to all the many talents I mentioned before, songwriting has been a part of your work for, let's say, decades. You put out this first record, I believe, in the late 70s.
And, yeah, 75 or 76, yeah.
Okay, I was off by a couple of years. But more recently, you've put out a series of CDs that are kind of a distance from this one. This is more of a pop songwriting album, and you've put out stuff more recently.
What was going on with the LP at the time was that I was living in Denver, and people were making music albums of their folk music, and I had always been a little more interested in a kind of a more expansive kind of folk songwriting that wasn't so much Civil War ballads and Joe got stuck in the coal mine. And I started writing original songs, and then a very generous man named David Ferretta, who owned a music store and was also a superb poker player with poker games in the back of his music store, he said, I want to kind of show Denver that there can be a better kind of record album besides these folky sounding record albums, which were many of them beautiful, but still that was David's attitude. So we did, and we got ambitious, and we wrote. We had a great recording situation at a place called Colorado Sound, and we made that LP. And the highlights of that experience include there was a local radio station, and I'm driving in my car one day, and I hear one of the songs from the LP on my car radio. And I think once you heard one of your songs on your car radio, you're sort of there. You know, it's not like nothing else matters anymore, but you've sort of been to the top of the mountain. So that was exciting, and because of the album, I got to do like in-store promotions. There was a big record chain in Denver called Peaches Records. Some people listening now may remember Peaches.
I've been to Peaches.
And they did a big in-store promo with me one day with decorations on the wall and all kinds of stuff. And I had a little mini pop career going then. And then in the years that ensued, I just became interested in. I like to think it's expanding the idea of the pop song, and I didn't want to sort of make open reel over again and over again and so forth. There was another thing that kind of kicked in, which you may or may not enjoy, which was at a certain point. You know, people in those days would have posters of James Taylor and Crosby, Stills and Nash up on the walls of their dorms and their bedrooms and stuff. And it just hit me one day. I said, "There's never going to be Steve Stajich posters on kids' walls. It just isn't going to happen." You know,
maybe today.
I got a little more outward looking in what I wanted to do with music. And by the time I'd relocated to Los Angeles and had a studio situation in my garage, the studio I've got here. Out near Joshua Tree is a much better situation than that was. But the first couple of CDs came out of that garage in Santa Monica, and I just got interested in such things as weird sounds, and maybe some songs could be funny, but some songs could be serious. And I sort of started making records or recordings for myself that pleased me first, and then I just had hopes that other people would be pulled into them. And I guess that's kind of what happened. That's sort of the difference between the aspirations of Open Reel, the LP, and and the CDs that I made since. Is I've sort of made the CDs for myself. Although when we start talking about the individual CDs, I can say that I did try to open up. I tried to make Expect Delays, songs about Los Angeles, my last CD effort. I tried to make that more playable, something that people would want to listen to more than once, you know, not just out of curiosity about what I had done recently, but maybe they'd actually like play it. It would be enjoyable for them and they would play it. So there was a kind of a change back
playability
towards popularity and success in terms of people saying, "I like your music."
Got it. So I noticed you adding a lot of interesting sounds and sound effects. And we might get to that later when we talk about some of the instruments. But were you listening to any like experimental avant-garde? I mean, you've got.
Well, if you want to talk about. If you want to talk about
John Cage or something bizarre like that, you know.
I like jazz. I've always liked jazz. I know that I'm never going to be a jazz musician or play like one, but I like jazz, and I like the idea and the structure of jazz, which to some extent sometimes is to take melody and really pull on it and play with it. So I suppose that's one thing that's influenced the music I've done on the CDs. Another big influence was Frank Zappa, because I think that his music was simultaneously excellent and played with a superb degree of professionalism, and yet for a lot of people it just sounded like some stuff. And I think that I've been listening to him again lately on YouTube, and I'm even more impressed with his accomplishments back in the day. And I own a pretty extensive collection, frankly, of his CDs, because he was prolific as far as putting out CDs and having music for people people to listen to.
Here in the house,
So,
I have a huge
and then,
Frank Zappa fan. My son is a huge Frank Zappa fan, and I wasn't all that into him when I was younger, but now I'm kind of very aware of him. And you know what you said earlier about you make the music for him. That's what Frank always said is, I'm in my studio, I make the music I want to hear, and if it's too weird for people, you know, that's not my problem. And he made, I think, I don't, Sean can give me the number, but like 60 albums were released during his lifetime, and another 60 plus have been released since his death. I mean, he's so prolific. But
yeah, it's amazing. And then the live shows were always amazing, and oftentimes the LPs were excellent recordings of live shows that he would later, as I understand it, attenuate back in the studio and add new tracks to, and so on and so forth. And in that way, because of live taping of live shows, he was able to constantly be turning and pulling new things out, doing new, releasing new material. Then the other pole or polarity, I guess you could say, was in some ways I never quite left the world of folk, and there were some people who Pete McCabe's checking in. Great, hi Pete.
You got a few fans out there already, believe it or not.
Well, that's nice. Pete is an excellent composer and has made some beautiful CDs, and is a masterful piano player. But I always was interested in. I never quite lost my flavor for the sort of potential simple beauty of a kind of a folk or an acoustic guitar oriented song. And so I was a huge fan of John Prine's. Very sad when he left us recently. More sad that he was claimed by COVID. And John's direct and simple kind of 4/4 folk approach is so beautifully effective. And his records are stunning. The poetry of them is tremendous. There's another guy I was listening to the other day that's sort of between two worlds. I think a little bit rock and rockabilly and folk, and that's Steve Earle. And so you're influenced a little bit by everything that you like, but those are some major people that have had an impact on me. And there's stuff like Todd Rundgren. I was a big fan of his.
So was I. And who's still with us, by the way.
And the last few days I've been listening to King Crimson, especially the iteration that featured the guitarist Adrian Belew. And
I'm a fan of that period.
Yeah, aren't those great? Those are great recordings.
Those came out just when I was working at the record store in the early '80s. So I was kind of not around for the early King Crimson, but I got into them during the Adrian Belew phase. So yeah, I've got all those records too. Amazing.
Yeah. What happens is you become like Todd Rundgren's pop, his kind of smoother pop approach, which was very musical. Todd Rundgren, those songs, very musical. All that stuff influenced me, and I tried as best I could to make my own music sort of have all of that stuff, and yet you can always just stop and sing something simple and beautiful against an acoustic guitar, and it can be as effective. And those are oftentimes the songs that people like the best, because I think they have a higher emotional quality or lure to them.
Authenticity of getting right to the whatever the artist is thinking and at the moment, let's say. So do you want to talk about some of these records, recent records in order? Chronologically, I think this one comes first, but
you can hold you can start in anywhere you want, because they don't reference each other chronologically, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
It's logic. Well, we're talking about songwriting, And is this a good one to start with songwriting, or do you want to talk about the songwriting,
Oh,
your
songwriting.
approach
Well,
to songwriting?
just quickly about songwriting, because I think, for one thing, I think it's almost like snowflakes. I think everybody who writes a song comes to the doing of it in their own individual way. But I brought a little piece of evidence. This is a note I wrote myself a few days ago, and it says possible. The next project I'm going to do is going to be a collection of songs that are thematically about the pandemic. You know, because I'm looking, to make a party record. But I think this event has unquestionably impacted everyone, and I don't feel like I'll be alone at all in songs that reflect the pandemic. But it says on this note, song for COVID CD, is this Wednesday? Be about knowing what day of the week it is, which is a phenomena that's happening to everybody during the pandemic. Is some of us remember exactly what day it is because the days are taking on such tremendous similarity.
I'm not sure days matter anymore.
We'll see. That's an interesting question.
They may someday.
That's an interesting question.
Some people who don't have to be somewhere.
I think what a lot of people are doing is they're giving their days their own. They're building in their own little structures. Parents are having a board game night with the kids, and then there's movie night, and there's this other night, and that helps people go, oh, I guess it's Thursday.
I guess people need that clock. They need the clock, whether it's not there or not. They want it.
Well, we like to think our lives aren't just like we're critters that go to bed under a rock at night and go out during the day foraging for food. But we think of ourselves as having somewhat grander design to our lives, and as a result, when some of those indications of where we're getting to or what we're getting to in life go away, I think you have to kind of rebuild. You have to build some new ones in, and I think that's what a lot of people are doing. So anyhow, that's about songwriting.
That's Wednesday.
So an idea is almost always at some point expresses itself as a title, and then once you have a title, you have to commit to how are you going to incorporate the title into the song. And so I think that in that way the lyrics can come first. Then there's this other thing, which is you just pick up a guitar and you start to find some changes that you like, and then you think what lyric idea would go well with this thing that I'm doing. And I've been composing more and more lately with an electric guitar hooked to an effects pedal, where I can get some textures that sort of suggest more interesting things than if I was just composing with the acoustic. But we could try an experiment if you're up for it.
All right. So
why don't you tell me something?
We're composing live here, people. This is a live experiment.
Tell me something I don't know about you.
Oh my goodness.
What did you eat for dinner last night?
I ate takeout from an Afghanistani restaurant, and it was called some chopped up lamb and chicken over rice.
Takeout from Afghanistan. Don't have to cook it in a pan. Little box, something in lamb. Food from Afghanistan. Food from Afghanistan. Okay, so
I picked something that's not easy to rhyme. I'm sorry, I didn't have an easier rhyming food like deli.
We'll have more verses next time.
But
okay, so there's those ways of getting to things, and all of it's legit. When it's really solidifies, Greg, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is I think in recording is when the thing actually becomes a song. It's stuff, and you have a way of playing it live before you go to record it. But once you start building tracks and so on and so forth, that's really when it kind of hardens into into a song.
Well, that's
And what's your own
my
experience with
take
that?
my take on that is a little different. You know, we have songwriters and we have record makers, and Grammy for Song of the Year goes to someone who wrote the song. Did I say that right? Grammy for
Yeah,
Song of the Year goes for somebody who wrote the song, but the record of the year goes to the producer. And so
right.
I've always had
So
this
for the sound,
duality. What's the word? Duality, dichotomy. I put both those words together. And you know, a songwriter is somebody who sits down at a piano and a guitar, you know, Gershwin or whatever. Here's the song. It's a lead sheet, and it can be interpreted one of 10,000 ways. And that's the
hmm
beauty of the Great American Songbook, that these songs will continue to be evolved and reinterpreted. Now today that has changed, and now what you're kind of what you're alluding to is the song is really very closely attached to the recording of it. So
yes, I would agree.
that record is a song now, and a lot of people perceive, you know, I'm not going to say that's right or you know, my way versus your way, right or wrong, because nowadays people growing up on recorded music, that's the way they think of songs. But to me, especially since I'm a jazz fan, you know, My Funny Valentine, that's a song that's been can be recorded by 1,000 different people. So
Yes,
two different ways of
yes,
looking at it. A song today, you know, rappers don't even write down the music. They start with what you're talking about, hip hop
a
and rap.
beat.
It's the
Yeah.
studio. It's a studio creation. The studio is the instrument. That's kind of,
Well, I think
you know,
rock.
since
I
the
think rock
Beatles.
is. Yes, I think rock is responsible for where we are in the current time. It's impossible, for example, to separate the songs of Van Halen from Eddie's playing. You know, and a lot of his playing, a lot of people like the songs because of the solo. You know, like Here Comes That Solo that I think is
Right.
so great. And with him, they were great solos. So and but of late we've kind of grown out of the song has a great almost breathtaking or mind blowing
Hmm.
a guitar solo in it, and we've gone to this other thing with hip hop where it's more of a cumulative effect, and there are sounds on the recordings, but they're not necessarily solos. And I think where there's been some very interesting meshing is the meshing of hip hop with jazz, where you kind of get the best of both worlds. So
Yeah.
it's you know
Two very
it's an
related,
exciting time.
mhm. Two very
It's
related
an
art
exciting
forms
time
because
for
they're
music.
so improvisational. But
Hmm
you know, songwriting. You know, one of my theories is, you know, the last great song written smells like Teen Spirit, believe it or not, that spurned hundreds of cover versions in completely different styles, jazz styles, hip hop styles, acoustic guitar
Yeah.
styles, banjo styles. There, you know, every once in a while, a song comes along that lends itself to reinterpretation and reinterpretation. And you know, the songs of Van Halen, not that many people are reinterpreting them because
Okay. Interesting
that
point.
recording is the definitive version. Just one of my
hmm
harebrained theories.
We were at UCLA and we saw Charles Lloyd, the great reed player,
We were
and
all there.
he was.
I was there. Remember?
He, oh, that's right. That's right.
We ran
Okay, so
into each other in the in the lobby.
was it the show where they covered the Beach Boys in my room? Do you remember?
Uh, well,
Well, my point
Was
was,
Lucinda Williams singing with him?
oh, that was another one.
Oh, you've seen him multiple times.
I think that might have been it. It could have been the same show. She sort of came out at the end and did like 4 or 5
Right,
songs.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
And no one
And
thinks
she's a
you look
great.
like no one thinks you looked like Charles Lloyd with the beard and the hat. By the way, no one,
she
maybe besides me.
she's a good example of the meshing of influences. A lot of her songs are very rock
Hmm.
based. A lot of them are just pretty ballads, and many of them are more like how country music would be if more country music was really good, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but let's just say that we wake up one morning and all country music has to stand on its own 2 feet and be good, and you can't say pickup truck, blue jeans, or beer, or Saturday night, or bar, and it all has to be good and mean something. That's the world, Lucinda. That's the threat. That's the portal through which we can get to Lucinda Williams.
More today, people are calling it roots music, which is really kind of. I don't think them and country music necessarily pay attention to each other. You know, we have that Roots radio station out here in LA that plays Lucinda Williams, but they're not going to be playing Garth or what, you know, people I don't know about. Anyway, yes, Charles Lloyd, great example. Improvisation, tremendous. Jazz, blues, folk, country, all under one umbrella. He did a live thing at UCLA about a week ago that was live streamed. Should have told you about it.
Oh, okay. He has a CD of music that's just him and percussionist Billy Higgins, who's sadly no longer with us. And it's just percussion and sax. And now, man, talk about some naked jazz. That is some naked ass jazz.
Yeah, I like that style of not too many people jumping on each other. You know, one or two instruments playing over each other, I should say. One or two or three instruments, more of a stark sound. I haven't seen that one. Right. I just ordered it. Charles Lloyd. It's on its way from the Blue Note thing. It's about a week late. So yeah, still listening to him. Still doing great stuff. So was there more from the COVID record? You got us the Wednesday song. Was there more from the
well, I have I wanted to just use that note as an example of what inspires a song, or what causes a song to happen, or what causes you to go from an idea to starting to work on something. The COVID project is about 9 songs right now that I have in my form of notation, which includes recording demos on a cassette machine that I have because it's just fast. And then it also helps me to remember the song when I go back to record it. So that's all kind of part of my system. If I do have any kind of a system, I wonder if we ought to switch gears a little bit. I'm prepared to demonstrate some of the music or noise producing devices that I have come to use on some of my projects.
Sure.
Would you like that?
We're open. We need more noise.
Okay. Well, I just thought we'd do that, keep us from talking, from it being wall-to-wall talk, and then towards the end, let's just talk. I'd like to talk about the individual CDs and where they came from in my head, I guess you could say. All right, so
what do you got there?
What do you need? You always need percussion, and so I like shakers because I can do it. I have drums. I have small drums. I don't have congas. I'd love to have a pair of congas. I'd love to have an old wood piano and congas, and a stand-up bass is a dream of mine to have a stand-up bass someday in here. But you got to put that places, and I also like to put a drum set in here so that at any time, if somebody wants to come and drum, they don't have to lug their stuff. As a musician friend of mine said once a long time ago, he said, I don't get paid for playing music. I get paid for lugging gear. So there's that side of going places to make music. But anyhow, shakers. And this is a professional one. And how can you tell it's professional? Can you see what it says on it? It says Groovy Shaker.
The Groovy Shaker. So that wasn't made.
Groovy.
That wasn't made in your kitchen. Shaker. That's not rice in a.
I just. Well, those are coming. Hang on a second. But I just wanted to be at the meeting the sales department's meeting where they went, well, we got this new shaker we're coming out with. What do we want to call it? Well, I would crappy shaker, bad shaker, shitty shaker. Hey, what about groovy? It's groovy. It's a groovy shaker.
That's a marketing genius right there. Groovy and
so
shaker.
at different times I've gone trying to find my own or make my own. Here's one that was a can of mixed nuts, an actual can of mixed nuts, not the one where the snake comes out. And it has a metal bottom. So it's a very, all I did was scotch tape some rocks in there. And you have that.
Does that have a name imprinted on the bottom?
Yes, it says see next shaker.
See next shaker.
Then this was a can. This was a tube of. This is a very bad idea. They put potato chips.
Pringles. I recognize Pringles.
No. These were called Stacks. STAX, which is cool because that's an old great American record
label. Yeah, a Pringles wannabe.
Lay's, you can't see it. It's imprinted. Lay's Stacks, but because this is longer.
You get some travel.
Yeah, you get a different sound out of that, and it's a little richer sound.
Resonant frequency or something.
So then I like children's toys, and a lot of children's toys are wonderfully musical. This is just a kind of clarinet kind of thing. You see the tape on there, the colored tape. That's to help me remember when I went to record with it
which notes were which. Blue and yellow wasn't enough. I had to add tape.
Well, I had to add tape to remind myself what notes I wanted. And you can crunch it a little bit that way.
A little bit like a melodica.
This on its own, well, a little bit. This on its own is almost a little too pretty. So what I do is I have a vocal effects pedal that I got a long time ago. And if I play this through that, I get textures of instruments that don't really exist. And that's a thing that I've done. And that's also another way to get more sound out of something is to pass it through something. We all know guitar effects pedals. And boy, I just recently got a dandy one, the B9, the Electro Harmonix B9 that makes your guitar sound like an organ. Have you seen the demo on that?
I think I've seen it.
Yeah,
I have one of their pedals, but not that fancy.
Well,
so it sounds pretty much like an organ, huh?
It's uncanny. I thought about hooking it up today to show it to people, but I'm not here to hawk their wares. But I will say, the Electro Harmonix or EHX B9 guitar organ pedal is money in the bank. And you will, if you do home recording, you will get to organ effects that are really very convincing, really fast. And I used it on some Christmas songs I did recently, which I can send you, but I don't have a thing for burning CDs. I have to actually burn a CD out of my recording machine each time I do
send people the digital files. I think I saw their ad where the guy was playing the Doors intro, the Electro Harmonix guy who was playing the
yes.
That's the one. Do 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 do. Whatever Doors song that is.
This is there's a guy, I think he still shows up on Venice Beach, and he makes these saxophones out of what is essentially, I think, rubber exhaust pipe hose or something. So it's not thin wall, but it's some more like it's a rubber hose like they use in industry. And you can see that there's sound holes drilled in it. And then he puts a clarinet reed on it. And while there are other versions of this that are all plastic and so forth, I've had this one for a long time, and I like it, even though I can't play it. Let me not play it right for you right now.
He's going to get his reeds warmed up, people. Not bad.
There, you recognize Pum.
Snake just started rising up the side of me over here.
check your backyard. It's probably full of cats.
Yeah. Do you remember Roland Kirk, who used to make his own meat instruments?
Roland Kirk, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
2 at once.
2, 3, 4 at once. He made them himself. Yeah. He invented his own instruments.
Yeah.
Nose, mouth. We have a bunch of his records.
I would have got along.
Hope so.
Something else that's great because it's fun to play and easy and available anywhere is the slide whistle, which we're all familiar with from Warner Brothers cartoons.
I was just going to say, you're going to take it to non-cartoon levels with more virtuosity of the slide whistle.
On the first cut on dual exhaust, I do play a slide whistle solo, and I can't recreate it exactly, but I'll give you the idea. So
slide whistle in D minor, I love it.
I'm saying you could do more than just make some sound for when the coyote falls off the cliff. Let's see what else. These, I don't have these set up, but I just wanted to show them to you because I love them. This is a child's toy, and it's a series of flutes held together by this blue foam rubber thing, and you fill them with water. And you can make any 5 sets of tones that you want. So you make your own pan flute essentially by filling it with with bathtub water, which is probably sent some young musicians to the hospital. But in either case, this is the device on the break on a song of mine on delays called My Boutique. So when you get to that, folks, and we'll talk about the CDs a little later too, this is what gets to that sound.
So you can tune that any way you want. That's pretty cool.
You can do you can make it crazy off so that it's more jazz. You can put them right on tone and just play a series like a very simple pattern, which is what I did on. But this brings us to an interesting point. I think I do have one.
There's a point coming.
Is that I prefer you could get to what those do with a synthesizer, but the actual quality, the texture of the sound is much more interesting out of those. And when you listen to the CD, you can hear that I'm actually blowing some air, and not as I am in this moment, and not just
I hear it,
and not just pulling it out of the machine.
Not sampled. Yeah, there's a live organic quality when something's recorded, not just sampled and recycled. So yeah, definitely.
This is called the Hoot and Holler.
The Hoot and Holler.
It's made to look like it's actually made to look like a powder horn, but for some reason, like back in the days of the pioneers or whatever, but it has about 9 different animal sound samples, and they're actually triggered by blowing into it, which just intrigued me so much I had to have one. You hear the coyotes there?
Yeah, so there's a little electrical. So you're triggering a pre-sampled sound.
So you could get to that in any of the ways, but it's so much more fun to get to it that way. Where can you hear that?
Without
again, on Expect Delays, there's a cut called Gas Station Restroom.
This one.
And yes, and it sounds, to make it sound like the restroom was a jungle, I used that pretty heavily.
Number 8 for those of you
Okay, I
listening at home.
have maybe 2 more things. Are you good? One is
I don't even need a restroom break. I'm good.
I like
Just an arm break.
again, I like children's toys, and especially, it was a good time about, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. It's still not a bad time for inexpensive children's electronic keyboards, and you can get them at yard sales for pennies on the dollar. And as long as they work when you get it home, if somebody didn't, rust out the battery contacts or whatever, then
we have 2 of them.
Hmm?
We have 2 of them. One of which we bought new, which
Yeah.
cost $80 or $100, and then within weeks we found one in a free pile on the side of the road that we liked better. So we have 2, because the free one has the pitch control thing on it.
Oh,
So
see,
we like that one better.
I'm totally jealous.
Like Casio and Yamaha, two different ones. We'll let you play it someday.
So this one, it has, what they do with these is they, hang on, they have all these voices that they call one thing or another. Built in. I actually used that on a recording. Let's get rid of that. I actually used that to build a song called "You Can't Be a Little Bit Racist," which is on the Michael Richards project. But in either case, the other day I was into this, and there's a thing here where it says sound effect, and you press that. So, what's my point?
Sounds interesting. What's the sound effect?
When you're at a point in a recording where you go, I want something that's just not the standard thing, or a guitar solo or whatever. You can reach for one of these guys, and there's almost always something. I have about a half dozen of these, and I think except for one, I think I got them all at yard sales. But this particular one is by Kawasaki, maker of excellent motorcycles, and this.
And pretty good keyboards. Have you seen this thing where people go into these and tweak the electronics? They call it circuit bending.
Oh no, that's great. That's great.
That's a whole subculture, and you can look that up on YouTube, and like the guys in Devo kind of follow that, where you just open it up and randomly say, okay, I've got 2 electrodes. Oh, when I do this, the thing goes crazy. And so people will tweak them and sell them on eBay. You can get it for $10 at the garage sale, but when Whiz Bang, what's his name, put a volume control on a thingy, amazing stuff.
There's all kinds of little stuff. I wish I had my smaller. We'll do that we'll do another one of these maybe someday that's just about stuff like that, about handheld devices and so on. So speaking of that, I just want to show you this, because I'm almost positive you have one of these. You have a K oscillator, right?
I have one because you turned us onto it.
So what happened was Korg, K-O-R-G, maker of synthesizers, they configured one so that it would play off of what do you call that pad, Greg? What do you call a pad like that?
Yeah, is it a touch pad or is it some other kind of sound pad? I don't know.
Well, that's good.
It's a touch sensitive pad.
What they did is they configured it. Hang on, this has got short wiring on it, but
that one doesn't light up. The one you have, it just
no. Hang on,
it doesn't do anything.
I'm giving you.
Don't give the punchline away.
So, folks, what you do and I think Greg and I will recommend this heartily. Just drums. Now, I'm using this presently in combination with another thing I got at Bed Bath and Beyond. And they were selling this thing, and it's advertised as turn anything into a speaker. Turn a plastic soda bottle into a speaker. I don't know if I can quite show it. It's this white thing, and then you there's a contact mic, and I put that on the back of a dog food can, and I get a satisfying effect that way. Allow me to demonstrate a little bit.
So the Chaosilator is going through the dog.
This is plugged into the headphone jack on a Chaosilator.
Right. I was going to ask you what are you amplifying it with, and now we know it's the Bed Bath and Beyond.
So because this has volume. This is basically a little very tiny preamp. But that's it with the contact mic hooked to the bottom of a dog food can.
Very cool.
Now I wanted very much today to demonstrate the following. If you'll give me just a moment.
No problem. Take your time.
All right. So here, this Chaosilator voice is a trumpet voice.
Right.
Which, because you play it with the touchpad, even a monkey like me can come up with a trumpet run for one of my cuts. Now, if you take the dog food can and you stuff a pair of sweat socks into it.
Must be male large sweat socks.
Yeah, these are mine. They're clean for those of you at home that are worried about what the children are going to try to do after the show. But if you put a pair of socks in there, you get this beautiful jazz muted trumpet.
That's it. You've Miles Davis out the dog food can.
Let's go over those ingredients once more. The Korg Chaosilator, the turn anything into a speaker contact mic, a former can of dog food, and a pair of sweat socks.
Equals Miles Davis.
Equals.
We weren't expecting that.
Equals beautiful jazz.
Very nice.
So now I have a closer for this portion of the show, and then we'll talk about the CDs quickly. But this is kind of an invention. Hang on a second.
We're standing by while Steve Stajich goes to get his latest invention. Well, I hear already. I hear some kazoo.
I don't know. We may have a problem here.
I hear 25% kazoo. And feedback.
Okay, so this will be.
I hear a kazoo through a distortion pedal and a Fender amplifier.
Cut back to my high school years. My mom shouting up the steps. What the hell are you doing in there? Okay.
I swear I'm making noise.
So this is a toy plastic saxophone, and all I'm using it to do is hold a kazoo in the mouthpiece. And of course, that's been beautifully installed with duct tape. Greg, it's time we take a moment and recognize the contribution of duct tape to modern American music. I don't know that there would be any modern American music without duct tape.
I would agree. I can't think of a great anything in my house here other than half the stuff I own is held together by duct tape. So
yeah, it's
and by the way, the duct tape that you gave us at an event a few years ago, you remember that?
No, but I'm happy if I helped.
We won in one of your little live shows.
Oh.
A roll of leopard print duct tape.
Wow.
we just started using and finished it off. So I know you're a longtime duct tape lover.
I am, and as I say, without it, life as we know it would be impossible. Getting back to this device, so now we have a contact mic attached to the kazoo stuck into the saxophone, again, just as a way to hold it and manipulate it. And then all that is run through a old Digitech guitar effects processor, and that's how we get the humdinger, as I have so named it.
You've all just had your first humdinger from Steve Stajich.
Steve Stajich just gave you a humdinger, ladies and gentlemen. Write it
I
on.
would have guessed that was a theremin had I been listening, out of context. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Theremin-like. Unpredictable. Sounds great.
Yes, theremin. Good analogy.
But that's very
anyhow. You can hum. You can hum a part much easier and faster, and have it. There's like a shorter distance between the brain thought and final product. If you could just hum into a thing and get what you're after, which, if you can believe it, sometimes what I just demonstrated, it was in fact what I was after.
Hence maybe in the last dinger. I didn't put the hum and the dinger together until you just explained it, so I'm a little slow.
Okay, so now I just wondered if we could do a little something here. I have these CDs, and ladies and gentlemen, get a pencil, because in a moment I'm going to give you a possible path to obtaining some of these CDs. I'm sure you'll want them for whatever, Valentine's Day is coming up, and there's no better way.
All of them.
There's no better way to say to your loved one, I am completely without the resources to buy jewelry this year, but here's a Stajich CD. Mm-hmm. But in a minute, I'll give you an address here, and we can talk about that. So, Greg, let's do this. Can we talk about them? Pick one, and we'll start.
I have dual exhaust in front of me, and someone in my family said that they heard this in the last 2 days because it was on their iTunes playlist. So
wow,
it's couple songs in here. Which song? I can't remember. If he comes back, I'll ask him which song it was.
All right. So
Ouch is a longtime favorite, and Do Wee Wah. Wee Wah.
Thank you. Good.
Those are two that have been in the Kaufman household, believe it or not. There he's playing. There he's going for full humdinger. Right there. Yes.
Yeah, I am playing the humdinger there, and
the early stuff.
Yeah, it's so just about that CD. What happened was, I described earlier sort of my walk either backwards or sideways with my music as I did each project. And this one, for reasons I don't quite remember, I just decided I was interested in what you could say with music without words. So that defaults as a quote-unquote instrumental album, although I like to think that it's not instrumental like a Henry Mancini record would be, or something like that, even though he was a genius and wrote beautiful music. But what happens with these songs here is there's a title idea, and then I think a narrative emerges, again, without lyrics, through what audio information you get from the CD. So the best example of that is a cut called the Fugitive Calamari, in which I sampled a bathroom plunger stuck to the floor of my studio, and then playing that sample through a keyboard, I could get various different tones and different keys and sounds of a bathroom plunger. And then in the song, that business is scattered throughout as we sort of get a narrative of a squid that is about to be cooked and eaten and makes a break for it, and gets out on the streets, and his suction cups are resounding on the cold, icy pavement as he makes his break from the restaurant.
That's a disturbing image, but
yeah,
I'll have to envision that next time I listen to it.
So then the only other note I have on that one is that it was clearly me pretending I was getting to a Frank Zappa thing, but by thinking about Frank, I sort of did. I sort of got, especially on that cut I just cited, and then there's another one on there called Woofer that I think he might like. But it's sort of if you start out with an intention, you follow up on it, you can often come up with some interesting things. Maybe the Michael Richards project next.
Yeah, I would say this is the most. Is abstract the right word? Of the three CDs that we're talking about here, this is more abstract and experimental than the others, if I can say that.
Yes,
this is also the one I've listened to most thoroughly. And then our friend Michael Richards, who had some problems a while ago.
Yeah. Okay, so just a quick note on the cover art. If you use a public figure's image, but you reduce it by 30%, you take out 30% of the image content, then you can reproduce the photograph. That's how we came to be able to use those pictures of him.
I didn't know that was a rule. I didn't know.
It's what the guy told me that did the cover art. So I'm going to go with that. I'm just saying, if somebody is considering like an Abraham Lincoln project or something, if you remove 30% of the picture of Abe, you can use it. On the back is
been reduced a little bit also by blurring.
That's actually how that original photo was, which was why I loved it, because it was not in any way a good picture of a baby.
Do we know who that baby is? Is that baby?
Well, baby symbolically is Mike Richards, and what he did the night that he had his racist rant at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, and that event impacted me at two levels. One, I was a stand-up comic for almost 12 or 13 years, and I didn't like what he was doing to the business that night. He's making us look bad. Secondly, it was some really disturbing eruption, collision of id and ego, something psychologically, I don't even know if I can explain it, that caused him to think that people simply must be quiet and listen to him do his thing on stage, that there was some law or something almost requiring it. And so he had this outrage, which was tragic, I thought, in so many ways, and would be horrible if it happened again, because of where we're trying to get to now with systemic racism and so forth. So it also created a concept for me to create music to inside the idea of trying to say something about that. But I ended up using so much borrowed or appropriated audio, mostly spoken word, Richards himself, David Letterman, some different people who had things to say, and that I can't sell that CD really. I have to kind of give it away. So we'll get to our great money-saving offer in just a moment. Maybe we should talk a little bit about Expect Delays.
Let me just ask you, have you experienced heckling in any live events that you've done? Because that must be very, difficult to deal with, and comedians deal with it different ways. He dealt with it in the worst possible way, but you've done some comedy.
Let me go down.
I guess.
Let me go down a little bit of a rabbit hole as far as stand-up comedy. Just for a second, sidecar. I guess we're going to go a little longer than an hour here, folks. I hope you're okay.
I'm allowed to. I can go.
Feel free to grab
as long as I want.
a snack
Until the internet runs out of pixels, we can keep going.
Okay. So I did stand-up for like 12 years, and what happens is a guy announces you, and the audience is made up largely of men who are on dates with women, sometimes first dates. And suddenly you start telling your jokes, and now you are the most interesting thing in the room, which of course is exactly how it's supposed to work in stand-up comedy. The guy performing is supposed to be the most interesting thing in the room. But
Right.
when the men on the dates have had some drinks and they're become a little frustrated that suddenly something is much more interesting on stage, not in a sexual way, just more interesting to their dates, then they think, oh, well, now I'll be the most interesting person in the room. And then they start shouting. That's not the best theory of heckling. Some heckling is just dopey people who are just frustrated. But that's so you have, what you have to do is you have to approach it in a way that is non-threatening to that kind of fellow sitting there trying to get somewhere that night with a certain special lady. Be that as it may, I really like that. I really like the project, and I was happy that I figured out a path of songs that I think explored it rather than just exploiting it, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, it's an event worth spending some time thinking about what it all really means and the influence on comedians, and that was actually very devastating for Richard's career. And here we are.
Rightfully so. Well, rightfully so. Probably more. Not so much, oh, what horrible thoughts you had, as just, wow, that guy's a hand grenade with the pin pull. We don't want to work with him. But anyhow, for better or worse, kind of a big night for stand-up comedy that night. Okay, so expect delays about the songs about Los Angeles. This was my effort. This is my most recent effort. I think it's actually, if I can use this word, my prettiest record. It doesn't mean there aren't various strange sources of sound on there, but I do think the architecture of the songs, coupled with my effort to make it more listenable, more playable, I wanted people to put it into their CD player more than once, and I think we got there. The songs are all in one way or another about Los Angeles and the life of living in Los Angeles. There's a picture of Randy's Donuts. And also, if you can move over and show Gordy, my partner on this, Gordy Germain and I are sitting there. It's a little hard to see, but Gordy produced this and was the lifeguard on such things as too much bass, too much reverb. And without him, I would never, ever, it would not have been the thing that it is. It would not have been playable. It would not have sounded good. He insisted on something that I have come to see as important in the recording process, which is take your master mixes, and play them on a half a dozen different machines. Don't just count on your studio speakers. You probably already know that, but that's a good lesson for people who are doing home studio and so forth, is how does it work? Okay, Bruce is talking to me now, my neighbor, about Weather Lady, one of the cuts on Expect Delays.
Cut number 10, The Weather Lady. I don't remember
Weather
that.
Lady, that's a reference to this phenomena of
LA Weather Lady.
Los Angeles television stations hiring these Miss America pageant winners to tell us that it's hot outside, and it's I suppose it's working for ratings. I'm not sure it's working for women in general to go about that. So hopefully the point of view on that is well perceived by those who listen to it. But I guess,
is it different in the rest of the country? Because this is what we perceive Weather Lady in LA. But maybe if you go to,
well, I'll tell you this.
Nothing like that.
When I go home to Madison, Wisconsin, the Weather Lady there is not one of these va-va-voom, leggy fashion models, and she's a great meteorologist. So,
they're meteorologists too.
So
anyway, like you said, it's 100 degrees every day, and there's no variation. So
yeah, the best joke on that. The best joke on that was Steve Martin's movie, L.A. Story, where he's a weatherman and he's going to take a vacation, so he just films 5 reports a week in advance, and
Edits them in.
it's the same every day. Temperatures will probably be around this and that, so it's pretty funny. The project tried to be not all encompassing, but cover some different territory. But inevitably, there's a lot of songs on there that have some relationship to what it means to be in LA and want to sort of make it in show business. And I think that was probably inevitable for me, but I did try to cover some other bases. And again, I'm really proud of it. I think if folks don't have it, they should get it.
Yeah. Living in LA in 40 years, there's a lot of songs on here that either speak to my experience or the experience of people who come to LA. Valley Kid. I am a Valley Kid. I've been in the Valley for the entirety of my 40 years here. And you're not really a Valley guy, though. So we perceive that the West Side, the Santa Monica people, they look down on us Valley people because we don't have any museums or symphonies. We're just the Valley. We're actually a lot of the working people in the music business or entertainment business work. The engineers and the makeup people, all around me. I mean, do you have a take on the Valley? And I guess I should have listened to the song carefully before ranting.
Well, the song is actually about the porno business being headquartered there.
I should have known it was going there.
Yeah, it's a nice little story about
like I said, the hardworking people in the business.
It's a ballad of 2 young people who fall in love in the porno business and end up getting out, and so it has a happy ending. But
you went there.
As far as what you said about the difference between, say, the Valley and the West Side, I think the West Side is it could stand. I've conceptualized a song and never written it called West Side Women, but it would be about them weighing 95 pounds and sitting in a 3,500-pound black pickup truck with a baseball cap on. But it's that's a little something. You'd see more of that on the West Side than you do in the Valley, for better or worse.
I'm across the street from Calabasas, so. Other songs on here you want to talk about? A lot of great ones. Only 18 songs.
The title song actually comes second because there's this first spoken word piece that's basically about the way people are in their automobiles out here. There's thousands of people in automobiles out here on a freeway. This is, the traffic numbers are coming back up, I guess, but pre-COVID, I don't have to tell people who live in LA what the traffic situation was like. And it's just about 2 people who are alone, surrounded by thousands, as it goes in the piece. And what that sort of freeway alienation is like for us, those of us who have to travel the freeways. And then the title cut, Expect Delays, comes as cut 2, and that, of course, is themed off of the signs that you see on the freeway. And it just means when you get out here to Los Angeles with your acting thing that you want to do, or your movie making thing that you want to do, or your pop song thing that you want to do, you expect that it's not going to go forward immediately. There will be some turbulence. There'll be some bumpy roads, and that's sort of the thesis statement. And then we kind of come out of that. And Oranges is about how for a lot of people, their first step economically into American life out in LA is to vend bags of oranges on the street boulevards. And then this is how I had it explained to me. They start to make money. With that money, they open a small corner grocery store or bodega. And then from that business, their children get the money to go to college, and I don't know that it's all fully explained in the song, but I think I got to a nice feeling on it, and it's not an experience that I, of course, understand personally, but I think it speaks to an experience that is the same for many folks out here.
But you talk about coming to LA to make it in the business. Some people are doing that, and some people are just coming here to get a roof over their head, selling the oranges. Or there are people on the street corner selling you their demo CDs for $5. You've probably seen this as well. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm going out right after we're done.
I don't know if there's traffic out where you are, but yeah, people come to LA for different reasons. Whether you're making it big, trying to make it big, or just make it just survive.
Well, and we'll wrap this up with a brief look at two other cuts on there. One is Rockingham, which is about the way that O.J. Simpson was released and immediately drove back to his home, which was in either the Rockingham section of town, or the house itself had the name Rockingham. And so then, of course, that's what I heard in my head was a Chuck Berry song. Getting out of solitary, now we jam, dancing on the dead down in Rockingham. So that's sort of the big sounds, one of the big sound songs on there. The other big sound song is, and again, that's because we did these particular cuts at Gordy's studio. The second one of those is Homeless, which is exactly what it's about, and is kind of a review of the dichotomy of all of us sometimes being able to cruise right past this horrible human condition in our cars with the windows rolled up, listening to the Beach Boys. So those two songs had to have drums and big 4/4 rock sound, and we did those at Gordy's by me laying down a vocal and a rhythm guitar track, and then Gordy Germain built just almost all the rest of it, and it's quite impressive what he did there, and the sound is really pretty good on those two cuts. And then the last thing is just a song called This Town, which is just that people will sometimes find themselves still daydreaming years later about hitting in the big time or having the big thing happen to them that they are expecting or hoping to have happen, and it hasn't happened, but here they are. You're still in this town. Is how
how far have you gotten in that journey, Steve? This is like a personal question. You came to LA to make it, and you've done a lot of big projects.
You start out pursuing some things that you're good at, and then those carry you to places. And I've been blessed beyond whatever with some tremendous, beautiful experiences that were as good or better than anything else that I might have wanted to realize. I did not become, as we spoke of at the very top of this, the guy on the poster in your kid's bedroom, pop star poster guy, but so much else that's been just tremendous. And of course, I'm thinking here of my life partner, who that's kind of the whole deal right there, really, and the rest of it is just, I'm really lucky to get to pursue the projects I want to pursue. I love creating my plays and producing my plays, and hopefully live theater will come back and we'll be able to do that. And the thing I'm working on right now is a collection of short stories, which I am probably going to self-publish in hopes that a real publisher will read the book. And I don't have to say, here's a manuscript, it could be a book. I can go, here's a book that could be a book. And then I'll maybe get some action on my short stories. And the trick is to just keep putting new challenges in front of yourself and caring about how those turn out, what the outcomes are. And somehow,
you have, creative control as the artist. A lot of people are doing it without a publisher, without a record company.
Yes.
You have 100% control. You have
Mhm.
you don't have to take any BS from anybody, and you get to keep 100% of the proceeds. So just throwing that in there. I've seen some books
No,
from
you're.
people that have done really
It's
well, and like rather than make a penny off of 100,000 books, I'm making $20 off 1,000 books. You know what I mean?
the thing that people used to want in pop music was a record contract.
Hmm.
And then there was this sustained period where it came out that what was going on with a lot of people um, with record contracts, the company would uh, they would say, here, you're going to get this much money because we're signing you, and then they burned it off in costs making the second record or whatever. So what people are doing now is they're just making their own records. You don't if you want to go into debt, you do it, and if you don't want to go into
Lo-
debt,
Losing you.
you
We're losing Steve due to some sort
watch
of
away.
technical
Uh,
difficulty.
you watch yourself and behave. So anyhow, how to get,
Losing your audio. You're back.
because I know people want to do this. So here's the deal, folks. I've got these. I've only got a few of them out here in the desert, but I've got boxes of these CDs back in Santa Monica. Grab a pencil, write this down.
And we will put this in the show notes. Don't worry if you can't write fast
Yes.
enough.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna zoom out so you go this way.
Oh, okay.
I got
All
control.
right.
Steve
Steve
Stajich
Stajich,
with the CH at the end.
PO Box 789, 29 Palms. You got to write it long out. You got to write 29 out like that. It's some kind of a thing they're on. California 92277. Put $5 in an envelope with a note with your return address, and I will send you any of the CDs that we talked about on the show. Expect Delays, the Michael Richards Project, or Dual Exhaust.
Dual Exhaust. You're supposed to pick one.
And since I technically can't sell the Michael Richards Project,
Oh, please.
if you send me $5, I'll put it in as a bonus.
Buy one, get
And
one free.
yeah,
Or
so
something like
I
that.
don't. If you can do better than that today with your online shopping, I'd like to hear about it. So that's
$5. That's
Greg will,
shipping
Greg will
included.
post, Greg will
That
post the
includes.
info, but
I will put that info in the show
you're worried,
notes.
my
And
name,
that
PO
includes
Box
shipping and handling at
79,
no extra charge, right?
29 Palms 92277, $5 for CDs.
Now
Okay.
we're recording this in January of 2021. If you're watching this on YouTube in the year 2027, this video will be up for eternity. So
You won't get your $5 back if it's 2027.
yeah, so try to get those orders in soon before they sell out is really the message there, guys. That's
Well,
great, Steve.
this was total pleasure to be with you today, Greg. And we went crazy long, but I hope people don't mind. I didn't. It's funny. I told
They're
Joan, I
still
said,
hanging on. We've got a good sized audience. A lot of your fans showed up. We didn't even get to the photos that you
we could walk around those quick if you want. I mean, we've been so
see.
sinful about all the rest
We've
of it.
given people for we've kept them going here for so long here.
This is just on the shelf where some of my music toys are, and
I can't even figure out how to do this because I barely know how to do this thing. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We covered the waterfront, Daddy.
Yeah. What have I done? I've lost. Hold on. I got to come back. Where am I? You're there. I've done something. I pressed a button.
All right. Well, Joan, I told Joan earlier. I said, she said, "Are you anxious about this?" I said, "I'm just afraid I don't have like an hour's worth of stuff to talk about."
I think you could do another hour. I think you could do another hour if I asked nicely.
I talked over you the whole time. I'm sorry, and then we added another 20 minutes on. So okay,
Steve,
I think
we've got Steve Stajich out there in the desert. You've heard about his CDs. Keep an eye open for his his plays and his books when they come out, and his comedy if he ever comes to a town near you. And thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Vinyl Rundown. Steve, you have a channel on YouTube, which is just called Steve Stajich or something like that.
It has the song I wrote days before John Prine passed away, where I was literally begging him not to go. I tried to write it like one of his songs. I think it kind of worked out. If people want to check that out,
I am John Prine, and we'll urge you to get more content up on that channel.
Yes,
and,
okay.
A lot of well wishers here, so I think we're gonna cut it here, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna hit the end button. So say goodbye.